it surprise you to know that Vice President Kamala Harris, when she was a senator, was actually voted the most liberal of all of the senators, all 100 of them, by a nonpartisan nonprofit that tracks these kinds of things? This is something called GovTrack. GovTrack actually rates senators on their political ideology and puts it on the spectrum, either the most to the left, somewhat left, moderate, or center, right leaning, on the right, and then far right. And the reason that they do this is because a lot of Americans really just look at a few sound bites and they don't have an accurate representation of the viewpoint of the people that they're voting for. Now, I think what's interesting about this is that GovTrack has since making this rating, and Kamala Harris finding out about it. It's one of my favorite videos I've watched over the past 48 hours, is her in an interview with a regular journalist who asked her if she's aware that she's rated by GovTrack as the most left-leaning senator. And this was during her time as a sitting U.S. senator when she was raising her profile, doing a lot of media and interviews. And Kamala says, yeah, that's a right-wing talking point that Vice President Pence actually said about me. And the interviewer said, no, actually, it's a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank called GovTrack that rated you that way. And Kamala Harris sits there with a frozen smile on her face, unable to respond, because instead of blaming it on propaganda, she has to own the fact that it's nonpartisans who have ranked her votes, rated her behaviors, her ideology, her viewpoints, things she has said, and found her to be far on the left. So this was Senator Kamala Harris's 2019 report card. Junior senator from California, Democrat, serving January 3rd of 2017 to January 3rd of 2023. Beautiful headshot photo that she has there. Ranked the most liberal compared to all senators, it says in bright yellow. So in addition to that news soundbite, I'd love you to see this dust up that happened on television between David Axelrod, political strategist, and he's actually like one of the most powerful Democrats in America. And he was talking about the suspension of President Biden's political campaign with CNN's Scott Jennings. And it got a little spicy. Watch David Axelrod here.
I think what you're asking Republicans to do is to overlook a lot of dishonesty that came right out of this White House, that came right out of the vice president, people who work for him, his family, other Democrats in Congress. You're asking the country to overlook a lot of dishonesty about Joe Biden's abilities, capabilities, his capacity to serve for another 4 years, and so on.
Are you talking about Biden or Trump?
I'm talking about.
Literally, Democrats make the same argument.
I'm talking about Joe Biden. He arrived at this. He did arrive at this decision with a little push, not just from the goodness of his own heart, but what you have to admit. A little bit of a push from the party boss.
He concluded that this was the party bosses were reflecting, the consensus of the American people who made a judgment.
Yeah, people who made a judgment call. So then there's a little bit more here. I want you to see. They continue their discourse.
Well, my argument is simply that when you're trying to make a judgment between two parties here, I fully and freely admit that both parties have warts. But we're acting like there's no warts on this situation. This is weird. He won the primary without a serious challenge. He told us all he could serve. His party told us he could serve. And he's clearly diminished. And I think he ultimately arrived in the right spot. As you know, on the night of the debate, I said this candidacy has fallen. He ultimately got here. But it was pretty torturous how they got here. And I think a lot of people burned a lot of credibility on the road to getting here.
Well, you should.
Yeah, and so, that's Scott Jennings, and he's basically, he offered some criticism to both candidates, actually, Trump and Biden. But the issue that he outlined is one that Democrats would like to smooth over with this current PR campaign we're being subjected to. They want you to think of Kamala Harris as rescuing Joe Biden and him passing the torch to her, when in reality, he was forced out. He was forced out of running because he is suffering from cognitive decline. But he was suffering from cognitive decline, a much milder version, it's true, but it has progressed when he ran. So please don't allow this. Look at the candidate's actual actions before taking your vote. Coming up, an American reporter sentenced to 16 years in prison for spying on Russia. That's all up next.